Welcome to Navigating Baby Loss. Today I have on the show Crystal Webster, and I am so excited to talk to Crystal about all of the amazing work that she is doing in the baby loss community. She is a fellow loss mom, but 12 years down the road. So welcome, Crystal. I'm so happy you are here with us today to share your beautiful story and teach us about the hope and inspiration that you are spreading so far and wide in our community.
Oh, you are the sweetest. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
Good. Well, would you be willing to share the story of your sweet baby?
Yes, I love to say my Madelyn's name, and I think all moms do,
Yes, true.
especially lost moms, I feel like. Yeah, so my Madelyn Elizabeth would be 12 this year. Her birthday's May 19th. So in 2010, we found out we were pregnant with our first baby. Super excited. Everything was hunky-dory, textbook pregnancy, as everyone says theirs is. And then we went in for what we thought was just a routine ultrasound. Everybody thought that. They're like, hey, insurance will cover this. You want to do that? And I was like, yeah, okay. So at 32 weeks, we went in for an ultrasound and heard those words that you never want to hear. Hold on just a second. Something's not right. I'm going to go talk to the doctor.
Yeah. And
she left the technician left the room. Could have been gone 5 minutes or 5 years. Your brain immediately goes for the worst and also hopes for the best. And flash forward a little bit. Days later, my Madelyn was born through an emergency classic C-section. And she lived for 8 hours and she died the next day in my arms. After the fact, we knew that, happy and healthy. Every mom says, I just want happy and healthy. Yeah. I got one of those. And, batting 500 isn't great when you're. So yeah, we found out at 32 weeks that something wasn't right. We didn't know what it was. We didn't know what had caused it. We didn't know what would happen. We were basically just told, this is not going to end up the way you want it to.
Yeah.
So we didn't know if she was going to be stillborn or born alive, if we would get to take her home from the hospital or not.
And there were no medical explanations.
Not at the time, no.
Okay.
After the fact, we did do an autopsy.
Yeah.
And they told us it was a chromosomal issue. And, 12 years ago, I could have told you exactly how it worked and this and that and blah, 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 but it doesn't matter.
No.
And they said, well, this issue happens for one of two reasons. One, it's just a fluke and it happens. And it probably won't happen again. Or one of her parents has an issue and they passed it on to her. And that was either way, it's not, you don't want that answer either way.
No.
And so we decided, we need to know, was she a fluke? As much as I hate that, calling her that, because that's not true in any way. Or, was there something more to it? Mm-hmm. And so after the autopsy, we did all the tests on my husband and I and said, okay, we want to know because depending on how this story plays out is how we're going to move forward in building our family. But we don't want to know if it's him or me. Mm-hmm. We just want to know, yes, there's a medical problem, or no, she was too special for Earth, kind of thing. And they said, okay, we'll tell you, it's a medical problem. You need to get science involved. And for a few months, we kind of, worked with that information and, okay, well, now what does this mean? And what does, how does that look for us trying to build a family and bringing Madelyn siblings? And then one night in a panic, homicidal murder dream, I woke up and I said, I killed my baby, like screaming at the top of my lungs, just can't breathe, like horror movie kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, my husband was as calming and soothing as he could be. You don't really calm someone in that state. And he said, okay, I think it's time. Like, if you're going to blame yourself for this, regardless of the truth, I think we need to find out. Because they had that information. We just didn't want to know it.
Yes.
Just because there's a lot of blame and guilt, and not that that's just human nature, right? And so we called the doctor the next morning and they said, yep, Crystal, you have this condition, and for every 100 times you get pregnant, 99 of them will end up poorly.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, I'm not gonna get pregnant 100 times.
No.
This was
No.
devastating. As anyone, it's just devastating.
Mm-hmm.
And to knowingly sign yourself up for that is really hard.
So you made the decision to
We got science
have
involved.
Madelyn. So you made the decision to have Madelyn be your one and only angel.
Yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
We did go through 3 rounds of IVF in 4 states over 5 years.
Okay.
And the reason being that is it's ridiculously expensive. And we have super wonderful insurance that helped pay for 3 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it was still ridiculously out of pocket, and not just the financial, but the mental and the physical toll of it all was a lot. We said, okay, we're going to use, that's what insurance is for. We're going to use our insurance. And then after that, we're going to be done. Like, we said that from the get-go.
Okay.
We're going to use as much insurance as we can. And then,
yeah,
at the end, we're done. And in my mind, it was, okay, well, this just helps me plan a little better,
yeah.
as the type A first child. It's like, okay, well, now I've already had a classic C-section, so they will never let me do anything but a C-section. So that has to be planned. I'm now high risk, so I get all of the special treatment. I get to go, like, I get to pick her birthday. I get to pick the next child, not her, the next child's birthday and conception. Like, I get to pick everything. I have complete control. So it was just, to me, like taking the next step.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I just have to jump through some hoops. I'm a child of the 70s and 80s. Like, I am a special snowflake, and anything I want, I just have to try hard enough, and I get it. And
it'll happen.
Then I'm the princess of the universe. That is not how it worked out.
No.
Madelyn continues to be our one and only.
Mm-hmm.
And I know your next question, well, maybe not you, but I know that a normal person's next question would be, well, have you thought about adoption? Have you thought about breathing today? Like,
yeah, that's a whole other world, right?
Yeah. And I think people that do it are saints on earth. And I would love to be in that mind frame to be able to do that. And also, I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really. And I think that it's not just, step one, try to have your own babies naturally. Step two, get science involved. Step three, adopt. Step four, it's not just a checklist.
Yeah.
There's a lot of emotions and baggage and things that go into that.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a whole new process for sure.
and there's guilt and grief and trauma within that as well.
Yep.
And so for a long time, we made our decision that Madelyn would be an only child by not making a decision to move forward with any other
Okay.
options.
Yeah. So how did you continue on your grief journey then? How did it change your grief journey knowing that this was it? You mourned the loss of your child. You got to hold her and see her for 8 hours, and then that would be the last time.
I think for a long time, I didn't really process the grief. I just thought, well, if I do this next thing and this next thing works out,
Mm.
then it negates everything that happened
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people try that, they just keep busy, just keep busy, just keep swimming. So I didn't really process the grief of losing Madelyn, I don't believe, until I had to process the grief of losing Madelyn, the grief of, in my convoluted grief brain that I killed my daughter. I
Mm.
killed the possibility of having other children. I've ruined my husband's life. I've ruined my parents for being grandparents. Like it kind of snowballed into an avalanche, and then you kind of got to the bottom of the hill, and you're like, oh crap.
So you shouldered the responsibility for all of it.
Oh
You
yeah, I
you
mean, and
were yeah, yeah.
I don't think that I'm uncommon in that situation.
No. No.
I think I'm a girl.
No, and it's heavy, and it's really heavy in a grief season for sure, and you believe it so much that you feel like you have all the proof to show that
Oh
it's
yeah.
true.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I could convince myself anything, and I was really good at convincing anybody else anything I wanted them to
Yes.
believe too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, at what point did you decide to write a book?
So the book came around. So I've always kind of done special things for Madelyn on her birthday. Whether that be something small, like maybe for her fifth birthday, I just went to Starbucks and gave the barista my gift card and said, anybody that thinks they need a gift pop, a cake pop, use this to pay for it, and use your do whatever you want. And I'm going to sit over here in the corner and watch people get gift cake pops, but do not tell them I'm sitting over here in the corner.
Oh,
Like it's like, well, I can't buy my 5-year-old daughter a gift cake pop, so why don't I buy somebody else one? So I try to do something special for her every year on her birthday.
that's a great idea. I love that one.
Yeah, I mean, just and I saw little old ladies walking around with cake pops, and
Aw,
it happened to be like a Friday afternoon, so it was kind of busy.
yeah.
And I think I even like printed out a little card that was like, today would be my daughter's 5th birthday. Because I can't buy her one, I want to buy you one. Give your loved ones an extra big hug.
So cute. It's a
And
great
then I think
idea.
if you feel compelled to put it on social media and use this hashtag so I can find it
Yeah.
later. But it wasn't like, my name's Crystal Webster. I'm sitting in the corner in the garage
Right.
come say thank you for your cake pop. It was more just, I wanted to pay it forward in a little bit different way.
And it was fun to enjoy that, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I got to do, I got to spend time with my daughter in a very roundabout
Mm,
way. So that's a very long way to say I try to do special things for her on her birthday every year. For her 8th birthday, I've launched Sharing Solace, the website, and everything we do. Um, and then I've been told, I mean, I've always kind of been chatty, I guess might be a good way to put it. And I've been told forever, like, oh, you should write a book. I'm sure you could come up with something to talk about. And the saying is everyone has a book inside them if they choose to find it. And it had really kind of been playing on my heart for a while. Just because I think I have a little bit unique, snarky, bitchy take on grief. Maybe realistic, I don't know. And I would talk to other lost moms and other people that were grieving that, I'd give them my platitude, or not my platitudes, because that's junk and that's a whole other story for another day. But I'd kind of give them my take and be like, that's unique. Like, I kind of get that. And so I'd kind of been toying with it and writing a blog and doing some of those things. And then randomly, a professor out of, I believe, Princeton reached out to me and said, I'm starting this book program. And somehow I was given their name, my name was given to them. And, he said, I looked at your website and I think you have something to say. And if you will join me in this program and follow all the steps and everything, you will have a book that comes out in May. And I think I said some 4-letter words because May is Madelyn's birthday.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, well, 4-letter word, expletive. Now I have to do this.
Yeah.
So the book was Madelyn's 10th birthday present. That was a really long way to say that. I'm sorry, but yes. So I wrote the book for Madelyn's 10th birthday, gave it to her on her birthday, and now her name is in the Library of Congress.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. And you do. I've looked at your website and read your blogs, and your writing is so beautiful and so honest and raw and very, I think, just relatable is what I think is the thing that always comes up for me. So you definitely have a gift for writing. And the fact that you're so courageous to tell others about your experience and to speak of it and to share your experience. That's a great gift too. What was the thing that surprised you the most about your loss and your healing journey? What did you learn about yourself?
Well, the loss completely made me rethink about my priorities. Up until that point, I had done all the things that you're supposed. I'm from the Midwest. I live in the metro of Kansas City. And it is okay. You graduate high school, and then you go to college, and then you graduate college. And while you're at college, you're supposed to find the love of your life. And then shortly after college, you get married, and then you go buy a house, and then you get a dog with a picket fence, and you have 18 babies, and then you get old, and then you die. Like, that is the progression.
Yeah.
And I never really, I mean, and it makes sense. It makes perfect sense. And I follow, I checked all the boxes until I got to and then you have 1,000 babies and get old and die. And I realized, like, is that really, like, if it were just easy, that's what would happen. That's easily would have, I would have a litter of children and I'd be a soccer mom and bring the orange slices. But when it doesn't play out like you think, you really have to, like, okay, is that what's truly important to me? Because they're now decisions. They're not just going through the motions.
So you get to decide what you want for your life now.
Yeah.
And
I don't want to say that,
of course, I know.
Get to before.
Yes.
I think in just a lot of ways I was on autopilot. Like, that was kind of, that's what I saw around me. That's what my family did. That's what my husband's family, like,
yes,
that's what was done. So that's what you do.
Right.
And because that's not what I got to do, I'm like, okay, now I have to be a little bit more intentional with how I'm going to move forward and through the rest of my life.
Yes. And so how did that propel you to create your website, and how did that help you make the decision to create Sharing Solace?
Well, the concept hit me like a bolt of lightning. Like, there's no other way to put it. I really think that it was, we'd gone through the IVF process and we'd kind of said, okay, we're taking a break.
Mm.
You know, we're making decisions by not making decisions right now. We're just going to let things kind of settle. And it was like a bolt of lightning. I really think Madelyn was like, it is about freaking time, Mom. This is what we're going to do. And this is how you're going to heal your own heart and hopefully be able to heal other people, you know, help to heal other people.
Yeah.
Because it was just so immediate and so, like, I'm not that smart. I'm not that creative. I call Madelyn the brains and the beauty. I'm just the brawn behind Sharing Solace. And so it was kind of once I allowed myself to take a little bit of a respite or a reprieve that I finally realized, okay, now it's time to start to heal. And this was my form of healing.
So when you got quiet and listened, that's when it came to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Which is
makes
kind of
sense.
funny that you say it that way, because it actually came to me while I was in the casino in Las Vegas.
Which is not quiet.
Which is not quiet, but it is my happy place. And there's a whole story behind that too, but it is my happy place. And so it is like it's my home away from home.
Okay.
Like, I can go there and like see all the lights and sounds and things, but block them all out. And it's just like tranquil.
And just unwind.
Yes.
Well, that's a very unusual place to unwind and be
Yes.
tranquil, but we all, yeah, that's what, yeah, it works for you. That's great. So tell us about Sharing Solace. What does it do? Who does it help?
So kind of our little snippet is Sharing Solace helps grievers grieve and lovers love their griever through technology elevated pass alongable gifts that are wrapped in a community of strength and support. So either you are like, ooh, I wonder what that means, or yeah, I'm out. And that's fine. I get that. And I'm kind of a little jealous of the people that are like, grief isn't that bad.
Yeah.
You know, because they've never experienced earth-shattering grief.
Right.
But so basically that's a really fancy way to say we make pretty necklaces and keychains that are intended to be held near your heart as long as they bring you comfort. And then when they don't bring you that same comfort that they once did, they're actually they open up like a locket. You take out that middle piece. The middle token piece actually goes into a new locket. And then you're intended to pay that new locket forward onto somebody else you know as they go along their own grief. Kind of symbolizes you're releasing the debilitating grief, and also you're paying forward some of the strength that you've accumulated from your grief. And then the back side of those middle tokens has a unique identifier on them that allows you to register it on our website. So you can actually follow it as it moves from person to person.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
So yeah, it's very special to me.
Yeah, very special. I know you just went on a month-long adventure with Sharing Solace. So tell us about that. What was that like?
Oh my gosh, it was amazing and scary and crazy and wonderful. And what the heck did I get myself into, and all of those things. So, as I'm sure you know, October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. And so being kind of in this arena, I know a lot of other organizations that deal with pregnancy and infant loss awareness. And I've made a lot of great friends around the country. And as I was kind of looking at, all the events that I wished I could have attended because they were halfway across the country and here and there and whatever, I kind of put it on a calendar and was like, well, if I just got in the car and drove here and then drove there and then drove there and then drove there and then drove there, and while I'm there, I might as well go through here and see this person and do this and go here. Let's just go on a little road trip, just a mere 5,000 miles, 65 hours in the car,
Oh,
and
wow.
over 27 days. So,
Oh my gosh.
just a
Yeah.
little road trip. But it all kind of started because I wanted to be in Dallas for a friend's big event. Their first ever all-day event. And so I was like, well, if I'm going to drive, I'll just drive down to Dallas. It's from Kansas City to Dallas is 8 hours. In the Midwest, that's nothing. Like, I'm going to go to dinner. I'll see you in 3 days kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I'll just drive down to Dallas, spend the night, drive back. I was going to present at their it wasn't a conference, it was a gathering. And they wanted Sharing Solace to be there. And I was like, okay, I'll just drive down and drive back. And then I realized a few days later, I wanted to be in Baltimore for another conference where I could, share Sharing Solace's stuff. I think I visited 16 cities in 27 days, got to meet amazing people, got to be part of wonderful events. Just like being in the room was cool. And I was completely by myself, mostly because another human wouldn't have fit in the car because I had it packed up so full of stuff.
Well, what a great experience. So you met lots of other lost moms and had a lot of great experiences throughout that month.
Yes. Lost mom. I mean, our story is the loss of a pregnancy and a child. And also I fully believe that grief is grief, and it is uniquely similar if you choose to see it. So while probably 90% of my stops were with other grief moms, lost moms, like the conference in Baltimore, the big one that got me all the way to the East Coast, was for death and grief and loss in general. And it was just, there's no other word but like powerful and magical.
What did you learn from either from the seminars or from the other lost moms that you wish you knew at the time?
I think more than anything, I wish that I had been able to see how similar the loss of my daughter is to the loss of other people's children, or the loss of the worst grief that you've ever experienced is the grief that you're going through right now. And while you get to compare your griefs to your other griefs, like I can say losing my grandfather at the age of 93 due for natural causes was a little bit less griefy than losing my daughter at 8 hours. But I don't get to say that to you. I don't get to say my daughter's death was worse than your grandpa's death.
Right. Well, and I think too, sometimes there wants to be some comparison among those who, either miscarried early or compared to the ones, like us who lost them later and later term, or there wants to be some sort of measurement of grief. And I kind of
to be the best.
Yeah.
Because you want to feel acknowledged in your grief.
Yes.
And so however you have to rationalize that or twist it, or, this is why my grief is the best / worst. And this is why
Yeah.
everybody else's is just junk.
And I think there's no measurement on it. I mean, you could know that you're pregnant for 2 days and you're still a mother.
Because
You
that
still
baby is
grieve
100% love.
just as much. Yes. Yeah, that love is the same, and no matter how long it was. So, yeah, I think that is a great point. So, what advice do you offer to parents who are feeling hopeless right now?
One of my favorite quotes, I have a lot, I love to quote quotes. One of my favorites is by Josh Shep. And I'm going to butcher it because I don't have it right here in front of me. But basically, it's life can make you bitter or it can make you better.
Mm,
And that choice is up to you. And I think in some ways you have to go through the bitter to get to the better.
yeah.
But it's very easy to stop in bitter and just be, the grumpy old cat lady
Yeah.
for the rest of your life. And while I do not judge anyone that chooses that, that's the life they choose to live. I hope that somehow I got past the bitter. I mean, and it's a very fine line, and it wiggles and wobbles, and sometimes I am very bitter and other days I'm really better. And some seconds I'm better and then the next second I'm
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
But I think if you can aim to try to be on the better side,
Yeah.
you will have a much more pleasant life.
Yeah. I like that. You're right, because it is a choice.
Mhm.
It is a choice, and we don't get to choose that this happened to us, but we do get to choose our reaction to it and how we want it to be in our lives,
Mhm.
and what are we making this mean in our lives. Well, I have to tell you that my rainbow baby,
Mhm.
her name is Madeline.
Mhm.
And she's too busy at college to worry about mom. But while we were here, she called me. So I am feeling like that is a little sign from your sweet Madeline,
Mhm.
too.
Oh, I love that. Oh, yay.
And I think they're spelled the same, right? Madelyn.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So there, I saw her name and I was like, Madeline. So
Love it.
I
I love
love that.
it.
I feel like I think there's signs everywhere of our babies. So
Yes. But you have to look for them.
I wanted to
Open.
share your baby's sign with you. So what do you see for the future of Sharing Solace? Are you going to have more merchandise? Do you wanted to like what do you want for it? What do you want people to know?
More than anything, I want people to remember they're not alone.
Yeah.
Like that is the overarching mission of Sharing Solace, is to provide support and in a very low stress way, let people know that even though they feel completely alone, they're not, if they choose to allow those other people. So that, I mean, anything, I say anything
Mm,
that has to do with support and love and strength is, but our true mission is to support those that need that choose to have extra support.
it is very isolating. It's a very isolating time. And so I love the beautiful gesture that you have where you pass it on to
And
someone that
especially,
you
I mean,
know.
child loss is disenfranchised grief in so
Yes.
many ways,
Yes.
because in so many ways you're the only one, especially if it was a pregnancy loss
Yes.
or a stillbirth, or people don't kind of register that as like,
Mhm.
well, I never met them, so they didn't exist.
Yeah.
And I get that. I totally get that. And also, No. And also, no, you are wrong.
Also, no.
Yeah.
No. I agree. I think that is, yeah, it's a tough one because so many people don't understand it. So many people are uncomfortable with it. So it forces so many of us to suffer in silence. So anything that can promote awareness or other people sharing their stories openly is really needed.
And I feel like even along that same line, there's so many other forms of disenfranchised grief, you know, murder, suicide completion, addiction. Like those are all, you kind of, you suffer, but in a lot of ways you feel like you have to suffer in silence or suffer alone because people don't get it. Well,
Yeah.
just stop taking drugs, or it's your, blaming the victim kind of thing.
Yeah. What are you depressed about? You have a great life.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think the sooner that I could have recognized that all grief sucks and all grief
Mm.
has strings that are similar to every other grief, that it's not compartmentalized, it's just different shades of gray. That would have, I think that would have maybe, well, I don't even want to say sped up because you never get over grief.
No, there's no timeline. No,
Right.
no, there's no timeline. It's
Maybe
just,
kind of helped me move forward through the debilitating,
yeah.
non-functioning grief.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of ways, I do feel like you kind of like that's grief's, hate stages, but that's kind of grief stage one. You got to get through you got to just kind of like survive through and push through the debilitating, unfunctioning grief. And then once you kind of get through that, then you can actually kind of start to process
Mm-hmm.
and learn to just kind of live with and carry the heavy backpack. So in a lot of ways, there is, you kind of have to just push through and just get through it in some ways.
Yeah.
And also you need to sit there and let it soak in.
Yeah.
That was way off topic. Oh my gosh.
That's good. No, it's good. I love it. That's great advice. It's great advice. So, where can people find your book? Where can they purchase the necklaces? Where can they get in touch with you?
The easiest place is just sharingsolace.com. That
Okay.
has anything and everything you could want, and probably a bunch of stuff you don't want too. But of course, local bookstores have the book. Amazon has the book. You can get it in e-form or otherwise. Sharing Solace is working on getting into like independent gift shops and some
Nice.
funeral homes. So we may be close to you, but definitely the easiest place is to just come to sharingsolace.com.
Good. No, it's a great mission. And I'm just so in awe of how you are able to take your experience and share it with others, and at the same time, allow it to heal yourself too.
I think that's what we're all just trying to do,
Yeah,
is
true.
muddle through and say our babies' names.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing Madelyn with us today. And thank you so much for being here today, Crystal, and for offering all of your insight and wisdom and sharing your story with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was an absolute pleasure.
Mm.